Conversations with Azu Ishekwele.
It's been happening across the country. It's happened in Borno, it's happened in Yobe, it's happened in Zamfara, it's happened as far afield as Ekiti and Oshun. It's happened in Kaduna most recently. What is it that is happening in many parts of our country that we seem unable to deal with? It is the mass abduction of school children by armed elements in our society. Welcome to Deepening the Conversation, an interactive segment of Conversation with Azu, a weekly diary on life and politics, published on the back page of Leadership newspaper and other newspapers besides. Today's column is titled The Famished Road to Kuriga. Kuriga is the name of the town in Kaduna State where about 287 students and their teachers were kidnapped recently. Azu, the writer of the column, is with me in the studio to discourse on the topic. You're welcome to Deepening the Conversation.
Thanks for having me once again, Julius. Pleasure. Thank you.
The Famished Road reminds me of the title of
Beno Chris book,
one of Nigeria's prolific authors based in London.
Yes. I actually improvised from that. Beno Chris, the Famished Road.
That's interesting. The Famished Road to Kuriga, and there are many posers in your article. The posers to what are the representatives of the people from Kaduna State doing, and other places where kidnapping is doing. What is the government doing? Some of these posers are actually itching for answers. What do you think they should do, representatives of the people and the government?
Thank you very much. I think that the representatives should do what they did when they were looking for votes. When they were looking for votes, they knew the road to these communities, those distressed communities. Now that the communities are distressed, they should be in the forefront, trying to find ways for redress, for reprieve for the communities that are so badly distressed. That's exactly what one expects them to do. As I said in my article, often you find that politicians visit their constituencies often twice in their lifetime. They visit when they are looking for votes and then at times of distress. I think they can do better than that.
And then you raised another very issue of great concern, the fact that we all seem to be losing the momentum for outreach. I'm putting it that way for want of a better expression. It seems to be becoming normal that school children can be captured everywhere, and then all we just do is perhaps wait for the next incident.
Absolutely. I think that is really, really frightening. I remember that back in 2014, when the Chibok girls happened, it was not just outrage among Nigerians, but it was both regional and global outrage. But we have had at least 14 incidents since then. And it has now almost become normalized to the point where it's as if we expect the next set of mass abductions. And then we just, that's really, truly frightening. If we get to the point in a society where mass abductions become normalized, that's very dangerous. I mean, I was telling someone the other day that even if it's just a head of cow, that number just been missing, communities cannot be quiet about it. It cannot be normal. Never mind that number of students and their teachers been missing now for days. And it's just business as usual. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
And my next question should also be of concern to our security agents. So many times there has been claims that there's a nexus between illegal mining and terrorism and banditry in many of our communities. The point is it true that some vested interests, I use that word again for want of a better expression, are interested in distracting the attention of government and the security agents with insecurity so they can go on, mining minerals in our communities?
Well, I mean, I also in that article cited the example of what happened in Mexico in 2014, when 43 students those students were actually abducted in error. They fell into a wrong trap. They were not the people being expected, but the mafia gang unfortunately pounced on these 43 students. And the 43 students were abducted and unfortunately killed after they were abducted. But the interesting point about it is that 9 years later, the government, after investigations, found that some of the government officials, including first responders who were first on the scene of the distress call, were actually employees of the mafia. So I'm not saying that's exactly the case here, but you know quite often than not that when after incidents like this, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 weeks after, security people parade 2 or 3 or 4 people or some folks who they say, these are just absolutely the small fry. And what is happening in Kuriga, as you have said, in Chinkun and in many other areas of the country, we see clearly that there are some kingpins behind all of this. And until you get the kingpins and bring them to book, the small fry will just be what they are, small fry. And what is happening in some of these communities, as we have also seen, is appalling to them. It's not just, it didn't start with just kidnap of children. In many of these communities, they pay they pay levies to access their farms. They pay, the trade-off, whatever it is in their farms with some of these bandits who have who buy their farms for peanut and mine the farms for whatever minerals they think are available in those farms. But as I said, these are foot soldiers. Until we get the kingpins and bring them to book, the problem will not be solved. But then the fundamental question you must ask yourself is that why is it that in communities that we are told are cut off from communications, therefore people cannot reach them? Why is it, and how is it possible for bandits or for mass kidnapping to happen in such communities? Because that will take a certain minimum level of planning, of coordination, and of execution, which will require people to communicate.
And to ask for ransom.
So how do they get these things done if they are truly cut off from communication? How exactly so these are issues that will make you begin to wonder whether there is indeed a certain level of complicity at certain official levels with the people who are involved. But until you get the kingpins, the foot soldiers will just be what they are, foot soldiers.
And my final question, should we close down public schools and fall into the trap of Boko Haram that says Western education is evil? Should we close down public school just so our children will be safe?
You see, the thing, Julius, is not what you should do, it's what is already happening, irrespective of what you desire. I think we should commend parents who, in spite of what is happening in some of these terrorized and besieged communities, who still, in spite of all of this, they send their children to school. But the way it is going, it does look, and we saw that especially in the Northeast at a particular stage when the mass kidnapping of students and murder of students in their schools became rampant, that parents just simply refused to send their children to school. And even in cases where the parents wanted their children to go to school, the children just did not want to go. So it's not now a question of whether we should close public schools or we should open them. The thing is that those schools are closing themselves because they are becoming unsafe.
We're supposed to have a safe school
Exactly,
initiative.
they are becoming very, very unsafe for children and for teachers and for those who work in those spaces to go. So it is, and the more of such incidents we have, the more recruits we have for banditry, for Boko Haram, and for all sorts of criminality. And so the responsibility of both the representatives of the people, of the community, and of the government is to say no and to stand firm and stamp it out and root it out, root and branch, not to throw up our hands in surrender.
That's a good place to leave the conversation. And for more of this, what you just heard are tidbits. For more of this, visit our website, azuishekwene.com. Subscribe, like, and share our content. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Azu.
Thanks for having me.
Bye for now.
Conversations with Azu Ishekwene.